Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you guys are staying safe and enjoying the beautiful weather, but also remembering to stay warm. Today, we've got actually our last guest for 2022, and no strangers to the Healthy Way vibe. So we've got Mark Gordon, who's come back, and he's going to be continuing off with the remainder two pillars. So we've already done 3 pillars of communication. He's going to complete the other 2, which are honesty and honor. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Fatima.
I'm John.
Excellent. So Mark Gordon has been involved in faith, business, and community leadership and family coaching and keynote speaker for more than 30 years. His passion for people is evident, whether speaking, writing, or coaching. He is passionate to inspire speaking, writing, or coaching. He is passionate. Okay, apparently I'm reading the lines over again. That's what happens when it's so small. He is passionate to inspire and empower people, families, and organizations to become relationally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy. He has recently released a book called Relationship Matters, an essential blueprint for building strong families and fostering healthy relationships. However, Mark says, "My greatest accomplishment is my family, being married to my amazing wife, Sandy, for 39 years. I am blessed to have 3 amazing children who married 3 more amazing people, and of course, my greatest joy, my 2 grandchildren." Let's bring on Mark.
Hello.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Good.
See you
Thank
again.
you.
It's nice to have you
Thank you.
back.
It's great to be back. I love this show. It's
We
awesome.
love having you here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important to have these conversations about health, right?
It is.
Exactly.
It is.
Yeah.
So we've covered some really great topics so far. So you're going to be covering the last 2, right? The 2 pillars.
So before you actually get into the last 2, can you just do like a quick recap of the first 3?
Sure. I encourage anybody to go back and watch those episodes to get the fullness of it. But yeah, there's basically out of the book, the first section of my book is the 5 pillars of a healthy foundation for every relationship. And so what I've boiled it down to, overarching principles or values or guiding principles, if you will. There's 5 of them that really help you build a healthy relational culture in your home or in your workplace or wherever you might find yourself. And so that is kind of these 5 pillars. So the first pillar was trust. Nothing happens without trust. So we need trust. And we talked about how you have to build trust equity. So it takes intentional investment to build trust. And then the second pillar is communication. And it's such an important pillar because our communication can break trust or build trust, and it kind of affects all the other pillars as well. And so communication is so vital. And of course, we learn that we are always communicating. It's always bi-directional, and we're always communicating whether we're saying anything or not. We use our body language, our tone of voice, all affect the way we communicate. And then we also talked about authenticity and how authenticity quite often is misunderstood and maybe overused. But we found out that there's 3 phases of authenticity. The first one is to know yourself. How do you be yourself if you don't know yourself? And then the second is to believe in yourself. You have to find that value that's within you. And when you do, it humbles you and it changes the way you see things, see yourself and see others. And so that really helps. And that leads into today's 2 pillars. And this next pillar is honesty. And some people have asked me, why would you put honesty and not integrity? Well, as we explained last week in authenticity, integrity is part of authenticity. And if you have it, it's like who you say you are versus who you actually are. And when those are together, of course, you have integrity. So integrity goes beyond just honesty, but honesty is so important. And I don't know if you 2 have noticed, there seems to be permission given by society's leaders these days that dishonesty is okay. That, politicians, whether it's politics or whether it's, leadership, it seems like if dishonesty helps or works for you, then it's okay as long as you don't get caught. And I'm just here to say dishonesty is a relationship killer. It's a relationship killer, and that's why it's one of the main pillars that are in the book. So there's an old proverb that says an honest answer is like a kiss of friendship. And so I really like that. And I think that that's kind of where we're going today, is we're going to talk about honesty. And then out of honesty is, I call it a lost art, but honor. We have lost the art of honoring one another. And I think if we can find ways to honor each other, it builds trust. It communicates value. It's being authentic, and it draws authenticity out of other people. And of course, it's honest. And so when you're honoring people, you're being honest with who you are, to draw out who they are. And so, yeah, so those are the two pillars we're going to cover today. And
it's actually interesting that you sort of mentioned about the politicians and everything. I was watching something earlier today, just came up on my TikTok feed, saying that our society has become, we've allowed people the freeway to be inauthentic. But the minute we actually speak out and speak the truth, that's when, you know, people start looking at us like, are you like, are you on crack? Are you like, have you lost your mind? Whereas before it was the other way around. And so I agree, like honesty, authenticity, trust, they either make or break a relationship.
You betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha. How can you trust somebody if they're not honest with you? That's why we've seen such a societal shift in our society, because you can't trust.
No.
You know, somebody could be saying something, and like you said, it's almost like people value you know, they put you in a place of being dishonest. I often tell people, in your homes or in your organizations, if you create a unsafe environment where people can't be themselves, then you're actually creating a scenario or an environment where people have to be dishonest to protect themselves. And of course, anytime we're protecting ourselves or we have to justify something we're doing or saying, then we're not being authentic. So you can see how honesty is so important. And it sounds simplistic. And maybe I always say it's simple, not easy. Mm-hmm. But I think that even little white lies build up to negative narratives. And so
isn't there that saying, kiss, keep it simple?
Keep it simple. Yeah. But you know, that's the hard thing, is that, you know, when you're saying that honesty, you know, or people are trying to stretch those boundaries to further ahead themselves or whatever they're doing, their cause, that's hard because it falls into that gray zone of, you know, it's either right or wrong, I guess, or you know, but there is that gray zone and that gray zone is set by us. That's the odd part, because it could be narrow, it could be really, really wide.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people want to make honesty a morality issue, and you know, morals are subjective, and you know, they're different for different people. I don't think honesty is a moral issue. I think honesty is a relational principle. I think it's an authenticity principle. So it's not about morality or you know, being some kind of moral assent. It's actually coming from the heart. It's being honest because you have confidence in who you are. I don't need to be dishonest. I can be honest. And you know what that means? Some people don't realize, but I can say to somebody, hey, I'm not prepared to share that with you, instead of lying to get out of it. I just heard that recently, actually, where a leader was asked a direct question and they flat out lied about it. And the person came back to them later and said, hey, you told me a few weeks ago, ABC. And he said, yeah, I felt cornered and I didn't know how to get out of it. So I just said that. And it's like, because I wasn't allowed to say anything. Well, okay, so how do I trust you now then? You know, right? Like, so that comes to, why do we lie? You know, and so there's a few thoughts. One is a fear of reaction. We sometimes have a fear of how somebody's going to react. Guilt or shame can cause us to lie. Pride can cause us to lie. It's a form of arrogance or pride. And then, of course, just simply wanting our own way. Sometimes we just want our own way. So
does that also include like the white lies that we often tell?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's like, you know, we've got that surprise party that we're planning for someone, and then they ask us something, but we're lying because we've got we've got this bigger picture. Does that sort of go with that as well?
Well,
or-
it's that one is a tough one, and because sure, you don't want to give away the surprise party, and so how do you? But I would rather redirect than to lie, because if I'm not honest in that, what happens? Do I take away from the joy of the surprise party with the person, right? Like, I don't know. That one's that one's kind of one of those little bit slippery slopes that's hard to explain. But I've taken on an honesty value in my life that I wouldn't lie. And so I had somebody ask me one, like, you know what, is there something going on? Is there, like, I feel like my wife will ask me, like, what are the kids up to? You know, and I'll just say, listen, don't ask me that, because I'm not going to lie to you and I'm not going to tell you. And, you know, so maybe my answer gave her some hint, but at least I didn't disclose it. I just, hey, don't ask me because I'm not going to tell you.
Well, with that comment, with Fatima saying, with like, with the, I guess you would say, like, again, there's the area of, you know, what is severe, what is actually innocent, you know, but, you know,
Yeah.
in that case where someone's asking, is this a surprise party for me? And you're like, you don't want to give that up, but, you know, you may kind of redirect it, but you're doing it in a good way, because I think of it as, what is the end intention? And if it's still to preserve that in the most honest way, or the most,
Right.
you know, I guess for yourself, like the ethics and all that stuff that you want, then I think that, I'm not saying it's okay, but, you know, we have to do that, you know, and
Yeah, it
but in
depends
the
on
end, it's going to benefit them. It's not going to detract from their joy. It's not going to detract from their
right.
special time.
Unless there's something that we know about them that, for example, maybe they don't like surprises
Right.
and they're a little bit nervous and they're asking you, hey, I need to prepare myself if there's a surprise coming up, and we know them, but we don't want to give it away. You know, I guess there's nuances in it. I don't want to get so rigid on this but I'm just saying, when you start with simple little white lies that might have a good outcome, where does the slope stop when you start down that road? So, you know, with fear of reaction, sometimes we just assume how somebody might react to the truth, and assumption's the enemy of faith. So if you want to have faith in somebody, don't assume what their reaction is going to be. Sometimes we assume it because maybe we've had experiences. You know, I often tell people, just because somebody did something 100 times doesn't mean they haven't had an epiphany, and they may not do it the 101st. But at the same time, it is difficult when you've had experiences with somebody. You're kind of anticipating what they might react like, or assume like what they're going to react like if you tell them the truth. But in my experience, even if you lie, the truth comes out eventually. And if it comes out, you've done more damage than you would have had you just taken the reaction. And so I remember with my kids that time, one of my kids went through a lying phase, and that's what I said. You know, I separated behavior from personhood. You know, you're not a liar, so why are you lying? And then I kind of said, you know, it did more damage to the relationship, because honesty is a high value of mine, to lie about it than it would have been if you just told me. And so let's make a deal. You can tell me things that you think, and I promise I won't overreact.
You know, something along that lines as well. Like, we're talking about lies, but really this is the whole picture of honesty is, you don't have to remember, right? If you're being as honest as you can. I've read this somewhere, and I'm sure you've gone through it with your work, Mark, is you know, if you go through lying, you have to remember who you lied to and what those stories are, and that's harder than just to have one story, which is the truth, the true story, or the real story.
Right. And we got to remember, perception's reality. It's not always actuality. So I may remember something in a way that is different from the next person, because I experienced it differently. But that's different than being dishonest about it. That's different than, lying to them or whatever to avoid that conflict. A lot of times people are trying to avoid conflict, so they feel cornered, and then they lie to get themselves out of the conflict. The problem is, of course, the conflict it goes away for the moment, but when it comes back, like you said, you got to remember what you said the first time, and it always comes out, and then the trust pillar is breached. And it's hard to come back when that happens repeatedly. It's hard to come back from it, right? And so that's really important to understand. Sorry, hang on for a second.
So it's interesting that you brought up perception, because the way I look at it is that there is the truth, and then there's the truth, and then there's another truth, but then there's the whole truth, right? And so there's actually this picture that I have. I had gone to a convention, and so it was, we were all at the same spot. We had all gone to the same spot, and we all took different pictures of the same thing. So there was one of my friends, she was taking a picture of the bell. And so I was being sneaky, because we have this thing where we do a lot of candid shots. And so I was being sneaky and taking a selfie of her taking the picture, but she was at the same time taking a picture of me taking a picture of her. Now, another friend of ours was standing on the sideline, so she probably was a little bit further away. So now she took a picture of the two of us taking a picture
of each other.
There happened to be another friend who was actually on the stairs, and she could see everything that was happening and took a picture going down. And I actually put it all together. It is quite interesting to see how our perception changes based on what we're seeing and what we're experiencing. And, you know, like how, again,
well, how does everyone relate a story? Like
Exactly.
everyone's going to tell this, it's the same event, but everyone's going to share a different experience.
Totally. And it's not being dishonest to share your view and what you saw or what you felt. Where it's dishonest is if you think that the way you felt or you share that is going to cause trouble, or it's going to cause you to look bad, or it's going to cause you whatever, so you embellish it in order to make yourself look better. then it's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
There is one real primary reason people are dishonest. One is, it's called fear. So sometimes it's just simply fear. If you use that as a acronym, it's false evidence appearing real. So false evidence appearing real can cause you to be dishonest, because you might feel you have a fear of something, and so you have to lie or be dishonest in order to avoid that fear, or to so people don't see the fear. So for example, fear of failure. If I have a fear of failure and I have failed in something, it might drive me to be dishonest or lie about my accomplishment or what I completed, especially at work. Think about that in the work context. Did you get your job done? Oh yeah, I got it done. And then you scramble to go get it done before anybody notices you didn't get it done. So, so that fear of failure can be quite a driver to dishonesty. It's not always, it's subtle, it's subconscious, but that fear of failure caused me to lie a lot before my healing journey. And I would have to make myself look better than I was, because I didn't want anybody to see my failure. And so that's a really rooted, dishonesty that was very difficult to break, because it little white lies, embellishing a story. I mean, it's so easy just to, and I had to break that. And, I had to, and I did that the hard way. I had to expose myself in the moment. And I did that a couple of times, and it felt so uncomfortable that I said, I never want to do that again. I'm staying with the truth. So I was able to come clean. So I tell people, come clean quickly, and come clean even before you leave the conversation, if you've been dishonest, if you've embellished in any way. And it's much better, and you'll gain more respect than you would have if you had not. Fear of rejection. If I say this, they're going to reject me. I better not say what I'm really thinking, because omission is a form of dishonesty when you hold something back, right? Fear of abandonment. If I say this, they're going to leave me. And so you keep lying and keep the facade up. Dishonesty is at the root, I believe, is a self-esteem problem. I think people with confidence don't lie as much as people with low self-esteem.
So does that also come down to, like, when you give your word to someone and then you don't follow through with keeping your word, is that a form of dishonesty, or
Yes.
would that be a form of integrity?
No, I think it's a bit of both, but I think it is a form of dishonesty in that you gave your word to get out of the situation. So if you said, yeah, I'll do that, like, hey, honey, can you take the garbage out? Oh yeah, I'll do that. And I don't do it, and I say, hey, I asked you to take the garbage out. Oh yeah, no, I'm going to do it.
So you're really
I don't do it. I'm breaking a promise, but I'm also lying, because I don't have any intention to do it right in that moment.
like it's so easy to do things or say things to get people off your back. And
Yes.
that's where we need to catch it. Like where you're
Yeah.
saying that really, because this has been happening for maybe decades, since we're little, we pick
Yeah.
these things up, and my kids lie, I'm catching them, and we try to correct it right there and then.
Right.
But sometimes you have to
Well, and
you have to nip it right there.
yeah, and sometimes we do that with, let's say a child is, and then we catch them and we try to deal with it. If we go after their personhood,
Mhm.
then what happens is we create an environment where they can't be honest because they get in such trouble. They feel so bad. They get, shamed on, right? Shame
Then
on
they do
you.
the facade again. Then that facade gets
Exactly.
bigger. It gets
Exactly.
bigger.
So what we want to do is we want to, like I did with my child, I said, hey, you're not a liar. That's not who you are. So why are you lying? What's going on?
I need to remember that one.
What's deeper in your, yeah.
I'll
What's-
use that one on my students.
No,
Yes.
but
What's
you know what? No,
deeper?
my kids are great. It's just, you gotta have
Yeah.
this arsenal of stuff that you can
You betcha.
grab from, because you have to remember that next time it happens, or if it does happen.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. It's just kind of like the gray,
Yeah.
that's their gray area.
Right. So guilt and shame is the second one, right? Like a fear of reaction, then guilt and shame is the second one. And that's exactly what's happening there. Your kids are feeling guilty about something, so they're going to embellish or lie or omit or get out of it because they're guilty. Guilt is I did something wrong, as we talked about last time, and shame is I am something wrong. And so shame's a much deeper problem. And so when you feel shame, you have to kind of cover up, I always say pride covers up or puffs up, right? So you have to cover up. So when you have shame, it prevents honesty because you can't be honest with who you are. And so then it's much easier to lie about things. And especially, and when you have shame, you also tend to deflect blame to other people. So you almost, like I've heard people say, well, they don't deserve the truth. they hurt me. I'm not going to be honest with them. Well, yeah, but you want relationship with them, you're going to have to get honest with them, So when you have shame, it basically makes you hide the truth. It makes you cover up. And so that is much easier than to be dishonest, right? Because
Like like that Jack Nicholson line, right? You can't handle the truth because he was hiding something.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I'm sort of hearing is that honesty is something that actually comes from within.
Yes.
And so it's more of a value and a moral that it's us hiding something that we're basically being dishonest, but it's not the other person who is receiving it. Is that correct?
Yes. So I often say to overcome dishonesty, we need to build the kind of confidence that's rooted in love, because love removes fear, right? When you feel loved, it removes fear. And so that even if you make a mistake, it doesn't define you. That you can completely honest with yourself and others, because your mistakes don't define you. And so that when you have that kind of confidence and that kind of love for yourself and for others, like, and I don't mean a prideful self-love, I'm talking about I see my value and I'm going to live out of that value. So yes, from that angle, honesty is a value, because I know who I am and I'm confident and I know I'm capable of making mistakes, and I'm capable of blowing it once in a while, but I'm okay with that too, because I can learn from it. So now I don't have to hide it. I have nothing to hide if I have no shame. If I have shame, then I'm hiding things. And so that hiding, especially when you hide things from yourself, it becomes easier to hide things from others. That makes sense, right? And so, like I said, pride manifests in two ways: that you think too much of yourself, which puffs up, or you think too little of yourself, which covers up. And either one will create dishonesty, because if you're puffed up, you'll be dishonest to make yourself look as good as possible. If you cover up, you omit, you hold back things so that nobody will find out. So those two principles are really important to realize. So humility, you might ask, well, what, sometimes it's, you got to humble yourself, right? And do that. So the last thing is just wanting your own way. So when you lie to get your own way, right, you withhold love. The opposite of hate is not love, it's selfishness. And so, or sorry, the opposite of love is not hate, it's selfishness. So when we're selfish, it leads to hate. And so you think about that in the world scheme of things, right? Trust equity is eroded, and you start to actually remove strength from your foundation. So that honesty pillar gets broken, and you remove strength from that foundation in your life, and it just creates instability in your relationship. So what's the point? So here, I want to give you a couple of tips before we move on to the next one, but how to overcome dishonesty. Be aware of the damage it causes. So maybe you've gotten some awareness today. Maybe you never thought about this. Maybe you thought, it's okay, just little white lies. Doesn't hurt anybody. How many times have I heard that? But little white lies do hurt. They hurt you primarily, and then they hurt others. They always will. And so, like I said, a herd of little white lies becomes a big problem because you can't remember or keep track of those little white lies, and then it all comes, and it'll affect the relationship. It affects your communication. How can you have good communication if you're lying? That's bad communication. So anyway, so you want to do that. You want to be aware of the cause. You want to humble yourself. You remember, humbling yourself is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Okay. So humility is thinking of yourself less. It's not thinking less of yourself. Come clean in detail. Like I said, I had to come clean in detail multiple times. In fact, one time I was, and the last one is correct misinformation quickly. And one time I was actually speaking to a group of people. It was early in my healing journey, but very quickly people started wanting to hear my story, and I had opportunities to speak. And I was telling a story in the middle of a speak, and I realized I had embellished it in a certain point, because it just, it's so easy to do. And I literally stopped in the middle of the speak in front of this crowd. And I said, I got to stop right now. That wasn't entirely true, what I just said. And I want to give you the real truth. I don't want to be misleading. And I told them how I had, whatever. And then I kept on my message. I had multiple people come up after and say, that was so refreshing to hear you take responsibility that quickly. It challenged me. And I realized in that moment, wow, like it was very uncomfortable. And I felt like I actually, what crossed through my mind when I stopped was, this could end my career, or this could end my opportunities, but I can't continue on if I'm going to continue on in dishonesty. And so, of course, this is long before I wrote the book and had the pillars and all that. And so I just, from that day on, I said, I'm not telling stories that are not absolute truth. I'm not going to embellish anything. And so by coming clean in detail, and by correcting that misinformation quickly, it really solved dishonesty for me, because I never wanted to feel that way again. Next one is let go of entitlement. Dishonesty quite often comes out of entitlement. We'll lie to people because we think we deserve something that we have not earned. And so entitlement can cause us, you put others first. I'm not saying don't self-care, but I'm saying put others first. When you put others first, it makes it easier to be honest, because you realize, hey, I could hurt them if I'm not honest. Choose forgiveness. Sometimes we're dishonest because of unforgiveness in our life. We have not forgiven someone, and so we won't be honest with them because we are bitter towards them. Use I am statements to reframe your mind. You could actually stand in the mirror. I am honest. I am integral. I am a good communicator. Use those I am statements I would say, don't fake it till you make it. Declare it until you believe it. Don't fake it till you make it. Declare it till you believe it.
That's excellent.
That's good.
Yeah. So any questions on that? That's kind of.
No.
Nope.
Going to, before you move on to the next thing, is the story that you just said that you caught yourself, is that look at the impact it's made now.
Yeah.
Like, it could have gone positive, it could have gone negative, but the positive is so positive that you can't even think back of what it would have been if you continued that, the exaggeration.
Yeah.
You would have to carry on as well.
Well, and I wonder, this isn't pointing at any person, but I'm saying, how often do thought leaders and people, content creators, how often is embellishment in there? How often is, and here's the connection. I believe that we have more authority when we're honest.
Yeah.
when we speak and we share my message, my little corner of the world and what I bring in terms of relationships, I think I deliver with more I deliver with more authority because I'm authentic and I'm honest. And if I wasn't, if I hadn't have fixed that back then, I don't think I would have been still doing what I'm doing today.
Excellent.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so I think maybe we should switch gears and go
Okay.
over to our next pillar, which is honor.
Honor.
Honor, the lost art of honor. There's another old proverb that says pride ends in humiliation, while humility brings honor. So there's that word humility again. I think that is really important to realize. The dictionary says that the noun is a high respect or great esteem. The verb for it is regard with great respect. So it's an action. It's I regard somebody with great respect. It also means to fulfill an obligation or keep an agreement is another word for honor. So I honor that agreement. And so you can see how the two sides of the honor coin could really build strength in a relationship, in the foundation of a relationship, when you fulfill your commitment to one another and you also hold them in high regard. And a high esteem or great esteem is when you are proactive with it. Honor is not a passive activity. It's you got to be proactive with it. And some synonyms that come, like the words that come with honor, things like, I'm just going to read a few: inspiration, significance, grace, presence, dignity, integrity, altruism, courage, dedication, power. I was amazed when I read that list. It was like, those are all words that are associated with the word honor. And I thought, that is powerful. And so one thing I do know is all healthy relationships have honor in the foundation. I think when you look at relationship, I hear the way people talk to each other nowadays, and cursing at each other or putting each other down. It is so painful for the recipient, so painful. Imagine how far honor would go in affirming somebody, in affirming their personhood. And so I try to use the word, but I also try to do it. When I teach a class, I always start by honoring somebody in the classroom. I try to find somebody, like maybe it's the person that brought me in, or maybe it's just somebody in the room I had a conversation with, or I'll honor the participants. I do a lot of work in recovery houses, the recovery places, and I'll just say, I want to just honor you for being here, for fighting for your freedom, And when you elevate people like that, you honor them. My goodness, their hearts are wide open to whatever you got to say. So I think in a family dynamic, in an organization dynamic, a culture of honor is so powerful. And I believe that it's been misunderstood and it's been misrepresented. And I think at the core, honor could literally make a place a great place to work if it has a culture of honor. And
that comes from both top and bottom. It comes from the top and it comes from
You
from
betcha.
both ends, right? Because it can't just, you would like to hopefully, I guess, start from the top from the leader in an organization or a company, and trickle down, but it has to be, it's easier if it comes from.
Well, what's interesting is it's one thing, we talk about leading up, a lot of times, and it's the one thing that a tool you can use to lead up that is really powerful, because it comes from within you, so you can honor your leaders. Think about the water cooler conversations and complaining about the boss and gossip and what would it be if somebody just said, hey, oh, hang on, I honor that leader because of their position. I don't agree with every decision, but I can still honor them because they're our leader. And if we can't honor them, why are we here? Why would I work in a place I can't honor up?
Mm-hmm.
If they're not honoring down, then that's going to create a toxic environment. But I'm only responsible for what I do. You see, that's one of the problems in our society today. Everybody wants to make everyone else responsible, but nobody wants to be responsible. That was the two greatest growths in my life, is when I started taking responsibility for myself and my decisions, and I stopped taking responsibility for other people's decisions. And so that's so important in honor. So I can honor somebody that has that maybe not behaving, maybe their behavior is not worthy of honor, but their position is, their role is in life. Let me give you an example. Police officers. I mean, there's really good ones and there's probably really bad ones, like any group of people, but we still honor the position because they're peacekeepers. They have authority to keep the peace, to protect the citizens. And so they have an important job. So we can honor their position, we can honor their role in our lives without necessarily agreeing with every behavior they have. And that's a good example. When we lose honor, we lose respect, we start to disrespect. And when we start to disrespect, we start to paint everybody with the same judgment. And I think that's what's happened in society today. We paint one group of people with the same brush rather than getting to know them, getting to know their heart, honoring them. In fact, there's even a biblical thing that says, when you honor your mother and father, it's a command that comes with a promise of a good life. Now, not every mother and father behaves in the way that they deserve honor. Like their behavior doesn't deserve honor, but their role still should be honored. We should honor the role of a dad and a mom. And that I've coached people where it would be dangerous for them to have connection with their father. So I'm not saying you got to have connection if they're not treating you well, but I'm saying you still need to honor the role. When we walk away from honor, we walk away from self-respect, and that, when we can't honor others, we can't honor ourselves, and vice versa. So it's a condition of the heart. It's an internal choice, right? So it's a choice based on our values, not on the merits of another person. That's key in honor. We got to make sure that, we keep that. In fact, I've taught many times, and there was we taught the Heroes program, and we we're teaching this principle of honor. And one of the other, the fellow that actually originally designed the Heroes program, and I helped with, later on, he has a powerful story where there was this young girl in school, grade 8, who had a horrible reputation in the school that was created, totally fabricated, but she played into it because she was looking for value. She was looking to find acceptance. And what happened is we were in a class talking about honor, and there's a principle. If you can't find honor in your bloodline, if you can't honor your bloodline, your generations, then what happens is you will not be able to find honor in yourself. So if I can't find honor in my family, I can't find honor in myself. And we were teaching this principle, and the girl puts her hand up in the class and said to him, "Hey, I don't have anybody in my family I can honor. They're all on welfare. They're all drug addicts and alcoholics. As far back, my grandparents on both sides, my parents everybody I know in my family are drug addicts and alcoholics. And I can't honor that. I shouldn't have to honor that, should I?" And this young girl couldn't find honor for herself, right? And so we didn't know, like, it wasn't me, the other instructor, he didn't know what to say to her, because you like, what do you say? And so he said, well, just ask around in your family, find somebody that you can honor. A few weeks later, she comes bouncing into school. She comes bouncing into the class. I found somebody. And it's like, by that time he'd, moved on to other class, other lessons. And it's like, what are you talking about? And said, I found somebody in my family. I have an aunt in Seattle who is a nurse, and nurses help people, right? And I said, yes. So that means I can help people. Yes. She went from the bad principles list of being marked that she could get kicked out of school to on the principals list for her marks. They went up so much in the school year. Nobody talked to her about her behavior. Nobody talked to her about her dress code. Nobody talked to her about her leaning into the flirting and all that kind of stuff. All she found out is that she could be honorable, and she made all the changes that she needed. So powerful.
That's powerful. So that also comes back to respect and also example setting, right?
Yeah.
From top up and bottom up, as you were saying.
Yes.
Right? Again, so it's also like, who do we surround ourselves with?
Yes.
That actually
build us up.
Embody, what honor is or what respect is.
Right. Yeah. So honor has 3 elements to it, just to make it this simple. It prefers others, so it puts others ahead of ourselves. It elevates others, so it lifts them up, celebrates their successes, and it celebrates others so that, so you can celebrate other people's victories. You can celebrate. Now think about that in a team setting or in a family setting where you actually prefer each other.
Mhm.
So everybody in the family is actually preferring the other person. Oh no, here, you go first.
Right.
Or it elevates others. Hey, I just want to just say how great Joey's doing today. I want to, amazing. Thanks for your contribution. Or it celebrates others. Hey, Joey sold more than he's ever sold before, or Joey came home with an A, or whatever it is, right? And you celebrate others. That is a form of displaying honor, modeling honor that will affirm their personhood, make them feel good. So guess what they want to do? They want to honor back. And so I do this exercise in some of the places that I teach this. I'll have people stand up, face each other, and honor each other. Just start saying things that you see in each other. Well, I honor you for your faithfulness. I honor you for whatever it is. And I tell you, every time I do it, and I've done it thousands of times, it is the most powerful exercise ever. Like, it happens every day. Other times I'll get people to write their name at the top of a piece of paper. They'll pass it around the classroom and everybody writes what they see in that person. I did that for a grade 8 or 9 class one time. Years later, I bumped into one of the students who is now an adult with kids, and they said, I still have that piece of paper and I still pull it out when I'm having a bad day. So you can see how honor will elevate each other. And it's just so powerful when you're preferring somebody else, or you're celebrating them and whatnot. So
I don't think that's done enough, right? Like,
No.
like I think that we imagine the other person receiving it. Like, we don't get this on a daily basis or even
Yeah.
weekly. It's just,
I know.
then when it does happen, you're kind of surprised, like, whoa,
Yeah.
what did you just say? It's kind of like,
But what if we
being
made it
volunteer.
part of our culture? Like, what if we just did it and did it regularly? Wouldn't that be amazing? Because it would build people up from the inside out. And I think that that's the power of honor, is that it builds me up inside when I'm giving it, and it builds the person receiving it up inside. It's a win-win. I ask quite often in those classes, how did you experience that? What did it feel like to share honor to somebody else, give honor to somebody else? And then I will ask, was it to receive honor? And often people say, oh, it was so hard to receive. It was way harder to receive it than to give it. But it was, yeah, it was like when I gave it, I couldn't not receive it. Like I couldn't not receive it, because once I gave it, I realized what it felt like to the giver. Now I can receive. I always tell people, you're always going to, I didn't become a generous person or a giving person until I learned how to receive. And so receiving and giving honor is just so powerful. Simon Sinek says, it is a luxury to put our own interests first. It's an honor to put the interests of others before our own. I love that. He's so good. So I just thought, that would be something. So elevating others, just speaking highly of them and whatnot. And I really encourage people to do that, to put it into the routine or the rhythms of their life, and think about it, be conscious of it, be proactive with it. It's just so powerful. I think it's Robert.
I love that technique that you just shared. I may not be able to use it with my students since they are grade 1 students, but definitely something that I can use.
No, you can with your grade 1 students. What you do is you reward effort instead of accomplishment. Like, you reward the effort, and I think that's the place to start, is modeling it to the grade 1s, because when they start feeling it, they'll start giving it, and now we get rid of bullying on the playground and replace it with honoring. So I would go for it.
I will let you know. I might try it this weekend. If not, then I will have to try it next term, and I'll let you know how that works.
You'd be amazed at how quickly they pick up on it. And you could even have themes, right? Like, so this month we're going to have an honor theme, and I always take the 5 pillars and have a theme each month, but it's like, we're going to have an honor theme, and we're going to find ways to honor each other. Another way to honor each other is like, make a batch of cookies and give it to somebody and say, I'm giving you this because I just want to honor you for being in my life, for always being there for me. It's like a gift can be a form of honor, right? And not just a gift for the sake of a gift, but you can actually use it as a expression of honor, if we will. So Robert Ingersoll said, we rise by lifting others. I like that.
Yeah.
We rise by then. That is so true.
Sorry, did you say we rise by lifting others? Because you cut out there for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we rise by lifting others. It's a
Okay.
Robert Ingersoll quote.
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote. And it, it's like you said, it's so hard to receive. And even I think even for ourselves,
Right.
to give honor to ourselves goes a long way, I think,
Yeah,
as well.
it does.
And that's
Absolutely.
where we forget is having to give that to ourselves so we can actually give out.
Right. And have you ever noticed it's hard to receive, but it humbles you? Like
Mhm.
when you receive honor, it feels a little awkward but as you receive it and you give into that receiving it, it doesn't make you pride or haughty. It makes you actually humble. It's like, wow, I'm so and grateful. I'm so grateful. That felt so good. Thank you so much for doing that for me. Thank you for honoring me. Like it's yes, it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. You may not believe this, but I don't like being the center of attention. That's not my goal in doing what I do. I don't want to be I don't want to be the center of attention. In a crowd, I usually disappear a little bit, or if I'm amongst other leaders, I tend to go quiet a little bit. I want to learn by listening. And so, but but when I am honored, it's like, wow, like that just humbles me. Like they're seeing that value in me that I know is there, that is so good. And that builds confidence. That builds confidence.
Yes, and so I don't know if you guys have seen the experiment of water and rice. So you take 2 jars, one, so you fill both of them up with water, and you put some rice in both of them. And one of them, on it you have like, very negative words. I hate you. This,
Yeah, I've
like
heard that. Yeah.
very, very, very negative. And then on the other one, it's like very positive, very affirming, like just like what we're talking about. And you leave them there for a good week to 2 weeks to see what has actually happened. And what you can see is the one that's negative, it actually starts molding really quickly.
Yeah.
And the one that it has like the honorable words, it's actually flourishing, it's healthy, it's like vital. Whereas
Totally.
the other one is like completely degraded, it's molded.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't even touch it because it's so like, you can't eat that, right? And so that's actually a good way to see like how honor and our words affect.
Now think about that rice jar with of water with the rice, and call it a heart. Call it a child's heart. And you tell me what a child's heart looks like when all it hears is negative. And what a child's heart might look like if they only hear honor. If you want to see behavior change in a child, discipline, the word discipline means disciple. It's to teach. It's not to scold. It's not to punish. When you honor a child for what they do well, they want to do it more. If you scold a child for doing bad, they'll do that more. You're pointing them in the direction with the words you use. So in a team setting or in a family setting, it's the same. If you use honorable words and you use affirmation, you're going to create a team that wants to achieve. But if you scold them, I just heard this yesterday. A few years ago, IBM, missed for the first time. They missed a sales quota, and the CEO sent out a scathing letter to everybody about how the sales department screwed up and how they messed up and they did terrible, and publicly embarrassed them. They had not hit a sales quota since then. Rather than celebrating the fact that they had never missed a sales quota, he pointed out that they missed the one. And I always tell people that in recovery as well. I always say, don't count don't look at the relapse, look at the days you were sober, because that is going to be much better motivation. So, in fact, Gore Gapel Das, I can never say his name right, but he was an old philosopher, and he said this. He said, we can access our spiritual progress by seeing how we are able to celebrate the success of others.
Nice.
That's deep. That's actually deep.
That's very deep.
Yeah,
Good place to end this.
Yeah.
it is. And on that, Mark, we do honor you for being here. We
Thank
do
you.
honor you for all of your knowledge, your generosity, your kindness, your wittiness, and just being here with us. So
Well,
we thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I honor you for this program is important. And so I really appreciate you. You guys have been so gracious with me, and it's been just an honor to be here on multiple episodes. It's awesome.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes,
Thank
we're
you.
very lucky. And on that note, so as we mentioned earlier, Mark is actually our last guest for 2022. Can you guys believe that we're actually in December today? We have 31 days till the new year.
Where did it go?
Where did it go exactly? And on that, so we're going to actually next week, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about zero emissions. So many of you may know that John and his family have been doing this challenge. So he's going to share with us what it's been like and what it means to be zero emission. And then on the 15th, we're going to be talking about how to stay healthy while being an entrepreneur. And then on the 21st, we have Dr. Teresa coming on. Actually, I lied. Sorry, Mark. She's actually our last guest.
It's good. She's a good one.
So she's going to be talking about chronic fatigue. Then on the 22nd, we're going to do a special Christmas episode.
Mhm.
And then on the
29th.
29th, it's going to be our New Year episode.
Right. So hope to see you there.
We hope to see you for all of these episodes that we do have coming up. And again, if you haven't followed us already, we are the Healthy Way Vibes on all of the platforms. So please do follow us, comment, and share. Thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.